Jonathan Schanzer is an executive director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Joins us now. Great to have you here. Thoughts on President Trump? He addressed the Israeli parliament, and he also mentioned the role that the U.S. had in this deal, but also that he needed the help of some of the other regions in the area to make sure that this peace deal would come together. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a speech today from Donald Trump. It went on for nearly an hour. And I think he really struck all the right notes. I mean, I think he praised the Israelis for their fortitude throughout the war. I think he made it very clear that they emerged victorious. And then he also made it clear that there needed to be some compromises coming, that there would be discussions about what comes next. And there, I think he was speaking about, the meetings that he's about to have in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, where he's going to be meeting with a number of leaders from the Muslim world, where they're going to be talking about phase 2 of this deal, the implementation of the second phase of the ceasefire. That's going to be crucial. And then, of course, what happens after that, which is hopefully that we're going to start to see more and more countries from the Middle East join on in the Abraham Accords, the normalization agreements that Donald Trump began to forge back during his first term. He is now picking up where he left off, and I think the region is celebrating this without question.
Indeed, right? And we're going to watch as those European leaders gather together alongside those of Arab nations at the Peace Summit, potentially just moments away as we saw him depart earlier this hour. The exchange, though, Jonathan, is what we're looking at on screen left, and that would be the release of 1,700 Palestinians here who the IDF had detained them in Gaza after October 7th. And then, of course, the release of 250 Palestinian prisoners who had been serving life sentences in Israeli jails. What will you be watching for as to what happens in Gaza in the immediate days to follow?
Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing I'm concerned about is just recidivism, right? That you have jihadis that were taken off the battlefield. You have people with multiple life sentences, blood on their hands. What are they going to do? Are they going right back to the battlefield? We saw this before, right? We saw the release of Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7th attacks. He was released in a hostage for prisoner swap, not unlike what we just saw. And look at the damage that brought to the region. So I'm very concerned about that. But in the meantime, what I'm watching for right now in Gaza is hopefully the dismantling of Hamas. Donald Trump was asked about this when he visited the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli parliament, early this morning. I was watching TV at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and he was asked, what about Hamas? And he said, they're going to be dismantled. Don't worry. No hesitation. Not a concern about it. So the hope here right now is that Donald Trump is leaning on these other Arab states to make sure that Hamas is dismantled. That's what will lead to the long-term peace that the president envisioned.
Gaza, a lot of the areas of it are destroyed because of all of this over the last 2 years. But President Trump, during his speech, he told the Palestinians that they should focus on building their people up rather than attacking Israel. Do you feel that message will be received?
I think it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Hamas is not thinking like that. Hamas is a terrorist organization that is dedicated to the destruction of the state of Israel. I don't think anybody has any question about that. But what comes after is what's important. Whatever the new government is, let's say Hamas is in fact destroyed, dismantled, there will be some kind of new governing structure that comes in. And how that structure is built, the ideological platform that undergirds that new entity, that's what's really interesting to me. And I think that's what we're all watching for. That's, again, why phase 2 of this is so crucial right now, because that really is what builds upon this ceasefire. We need to see what comes next, and it cannot be more of the same. Hamas has been a terrorist organization in existence since 1988. We'd like to see it now fully dismantled with nothing filling that void other than a responsible government that looks to build for its people, not to destroy the other. That really is the goal here, and we'll see whether the region heeds the president's comments from today.
Yeah, the president also mentioned the strong relationship and allyship that he shares with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and then, of course, the American representatives in all of this. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. He said, Jonathan, that Marco Rubio will go down as the greatest Secretary of State in the history of the United States. I mean, how much credit is really due to some of these U.S. citizens, these folks who are also working to broker peace in the region?
They have worked so hard. It is just so obvious. Donald Trump put his own credibility on the line to pull this deal across the finish line. You had Rubio involved at every step of the way. Witkoff involved every step of the way. Kushner came in at the last minute as almost like the closer, if you will, to use a baseball analogy, and he made sure that this thing got done. On the other side, you had Ron Dermer from the Israeli cabinet, who was also very heavily involved. You had the CIA involved. You had the Mossad involved. You had the FBI involved. There were so many different players from the U.S. side, from the Israeli side. The alliance was on full display today with Donald Trump standing before the Israeli parliament and giving that credit where it was due. I can't even count the number of standing ovations that I saw during those speeches today, both from the Israelis and from the President of the United States. But this alliance was, I think, on full display, and really important, by the way, that the Arab world was watching. They were watching, in Qatar. They were watching in Egypt. They were watching in Jordan. I don't think anybody has any doubt right now that the U.S.-Israeli relationship is strong, and that as long as it's strong, it's going to continue to bring peace to the region. It's going to bring more stability to the region. When that relationship falters, that's when I think the enemies of the United States and the enemies of Israel, specifically I'm thinking about Iran right now, that's when they smell opportunity, they sense to try to widen that gap. I think that's what Iran thought it was doing when it sponsored Hamas and helped to launch those attacks on October 7th of 2023.
Very well said. And even just President Trump being in the Knesset there, giving that speech was a statement to them all as well that the U.S. does back Israel and was behind brokering this peace deal. Also interesting to see the red hats that people were holding there. Trump, the peace president. Yeah,
we saw American flags also at Freed Square. Jonathan Schanzer, thanks so much for joining us here today with your insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.